Imagine a child's desperate appeal for help is silenced by dogma and bureaucracy. This is a chilling reality of countless survivors of child sexual abuse, CSA, within the Jehovah's Witnesses. While the organization claims moral superiority, its approach has been criticized globally as insufficient and harmful. In this video, we are going to explore the Jehovah's Witnesses' response to abuse from the time that the story broke. In the first episode, we looked at a long history of CSA within the Jehovah's Witnesses and promised to deal with what the Jehovah's Witnesses has done over the last 3 decades in addressing the problem. Now the question we are asking, has the Jehovah's Witnesses leadership adequately responded to accusation of countless cases over the last 3 decades? Let's dive in and see the adequacy of the Jehovah's Witnesses' response.
As an example, think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? If anybody takes action against someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization. We reject outright such lies.
But within the congregation, ours is a spiritual protection. When we're talking about physical protection, that's up to the secular authorities to provide. And
so we will never change our scriptural position on that subject.
Half a world away, Jehovah's Witnesses are also coming under legal scrutiny in the United Kingdom.
Do you believe that the Jehovah's Witnesses have a policy that purposefully protects pedophiles and puts children at risk?
I do. I would describe it as a scandal and a global cover-up and a protection of abusers.
At the risk of children?
Absolutely.
One of the most controversial policies is the 2-witness rule, which requires 2 eyewitnesses to substantiate allegation of serious wrongdoing. While this rule might seem appropriate for resolving minor disputes, it becomes a devastating barrier in cases of abuse, where witnesses are often non-existent, because the abusers do it in secrecy, away from the prying eyes of other people, because they know the devastating consequences of such evil and crime.
On the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, every matter may be established. So Christ Jesus establishes the fact that there has to be 2 witnesses. Now, it doesn't mean that if there's only 1 witness, that there's no consequences. There might be, depending upon the situation. But the scriptures are very clear. Before a judicial committee can be convened, there has to be a confession or 2 witnesses. So we will never change our scriptural position on that subject.
Where does this rule come from? The rule is derived from scriptures like Deuteronomy 19 verse 15, which states, a matter must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses interpret this literally, applying it even in modern contexts where collaborating evidence such as forensic data or victim testimony could suffice. What has been the impact on survivors? Survivors who lack a second witness, as is often the case, find the allegations dismissed. This failure to act not only denies justice but also leaves abusers free to reoffend. In many cases, the children that have tried, that have spoken, that have reported, sometimes are even ostracized as liars.
And he told me that I'm a liar and that I need to clear this person's name and tell the police what I said was not true.
Katya refused, but it didn't matter.
It's like they are bringing the good name of the elders and some other leaders into disrepute, especially the name of Jehovah's organization, the Watchtower, Bible, and Tract Society.
You told an elder that your dad was sexually abusing you, and he said, show us the proof?
They put the onus on the victim to produce 2 credible eyewitnesses to their assault. And by credible eyewitnesses, they mean other Jehovah's Witnesses that saw it with their own eyes.
It's actually called the two-witness rule, inspired by passages from both testaments of the Bible. Instead of calling the police, Christian says elders told him he could heal himself by reading.
They gave me magazines of their own literature on sexual abuse, and that these magazines were going to help me to get better. They were going to make me feel better from what I went through.
Internal handling allegations. Jehovah's Witnesses' response to CSA is often confined within the congregation, sidelining law enforcement and professional child protection services.
Now, in many countries, including here in Canada, the law requires that allegations like that be dealt with by police. And yet there's ample evidence that calling the police has not been the regular practice of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
If you have driven benefit from this program, kindly like, subscribe, and smash that notice bell so that every time I upload a new video, you will be notified. Let's look at the Judicial Committee. Allegations are reviewed by a group of elders in a closed-door process. These committees lack the training or experience to address such sensitive cases. Victims are often required to recount their abuse in a graphic detail, sometimes in the presence of their abuser.
But things did not get easier. After speaking to police, Katya was summoned to talk to the elders, a 10-year-old girl in a room full of men.
What did they specifically ask you about the sexual abuse?
I remember the elders actually asked me, do you know if there's 2 other witnesses involved to this? And I said no. And they said, well, there's nothing we can do, leave it in Jehovah's hands. They didn't even say we're sorry to hear what happened to you or anything.
Katya says one elder took it even farther.
And he said if you really were sexually abused, that you would have squealed like a pig, which you did not, which means it never happened.
Secrecy and Confidentiality. Elders are instructed to report abuse cases to Watchtower's legal department, not to the police. This policy has been criticized as prioritizing the organization image over the safety of its members.
The governing body has also asked me to address another topic that I must say hits close to my heart, being a father who raised 2 boys. The subject is the abuse of children and the damaging effects this can have on such innocent victims. As an organization, we view all such abuse of children, whether physical, sexual, or emotional, as deplorable. As you likely know, Jehovah's Witnesses take a stronger position than most on the scriptural inappropriateness of any form of immorality. However, to take advantage of innocent young ones is absolutely despicable. As a religious organization, we have taken a decisive stand against such behavior. It is our fervent desire to protect children from any kind of abuse. Our policy as an organization is that one professing to be a victim or his parents should never be discouraged from reporting the incident to the appropriate authorities.
Robert Souter was sent to jail for a minimum of 3 years by Judge John Goldwing, who had this to say about the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society.
The church authorities took it upon themselves to act as if they were the civil authorities, which they had no right to do. This matter was not reported to the police, as it should have been, and I'm surprised that the police have not taken any action against the church authorities. I hope they will do so. The state has the responsibility of protecting young people, and all citizens have a serious moral responsibility to assist it in doing so. I cannot criticize the church sufficiently seriously for not having reported this matter.
I have said it several times, and I'm going to say it again, that the hypocrisy of the Jehovah's Witnesses is that they want to appear holy on the outside. It's the same as Jesus' condemnation of the Pharisees. I have done a video, and I'll leave a link at the end for you to watch that video, entitled, "What Would Jesus Say to the Governing Body of the Jehovah's Witnesses?" He said, "You whitewashed tombs. You paint the tombs, but inside they are bones. You wash the outside of the cup, but inside it's full of dirty. This is exactly what the Jehovah's Witnesses organization is. They look holy on the outside. The other day I was looking at the Jehovah's Witnesses Elders Handbook, Shepherd the Flock of God, and I looked at the sins that they deal with. I said, wow, these are serious sins that the elders deal with that happen within their ranks, which are a reason for disfellowshipping. The majority of people who are disfellowshipped is because of sexual immorality. So they appear nice on the outside. I'm sure they must have done training on image building, but CSA has actually shattered that image. For example, in 2025, the Australian Royal Commission revealed that over 1,000 alleged abuse cases within Jehovah's Witnesses in Australia were not reported to authorities.
Since 1950, JW elders in Australia have documented potential child sexual abuse cases against 1,006 members. Not one of them ever reported to police.
Not one was reported by the church to secular authorities.
Imagine, over 1,000 were not reported. They were just handled internally or mishandled internally. The repercussions on reporting. Victims who speak out or involve secular authorities risk being disfellowshipped for bringing reproach upon the organization. Let's look at the role of the Watchtower Society. The Watchtower Society, Jehovah's Witnesses governing body, has been central to the inadequate handling of allegations, legal strategies to avoid accountability. The organization fought to keep internal records of abuse confidential. In several court cases, including those in the US, the Watchtower Society has been fined for refusing to release documentation that could assist in prosecuting abusers. In a 2018 case in Montana, the Watchtower was ordered to pay $35 million after it was revealed that they had knowingly concealed the abuse. Then there's resistance to reform. Despite mounting evidence and public outcry, the Watchtower has been slow to implementing changes. The organization continues to defend the two-witness rule and its internal processes as biblically mandated.
The scriptures are very clear. Before a judicial committee can be convened, there has to be a confession or two witnesses. So we will never change our scriptural position on that subject.
Let's look at survivor stories and advocacy. Survivors and advocates have played a crucial role in exposing Jehovah's Witnesses' inadequate response to abuse. As we mentioned in the first program, we look at the silent lambs. This advocacy group, founded by a former elder, William H. Bowen, provides a platform for survivors to share their stories and to demand accountability.
It's a pedophile paradise within the organization. I believe that.
What's the danger that you've been consumed by this to the point that you've blown it all out of proportion? I mean, pedophile paradise? Come on.
I believe it with all my heart. There is a massive problem in the organization.
But Bill Bowen is just one man in one congregation in Kentucky. This woman, Barbara Anderson, worked for a decade inside Jehovah's Witness headquarters. When Anderson saw Bowen's messages on the internet, she says she realized she had to tell him there was much more to the story, involving children in many of the 11,000 congregations across the country.
I don't believe that they're safe within their church.
The scale of the problem has become impossible to ignore. There is a claim by the governing body of the Jehovah's Witnesses that there are more than 8 million members of the Jehovah's Witnesses. These are their own numbers. We don't know how true those numbers are. I doubt they are correct figures since they are not trustworthy. When you look at the number of cases, you look at just the amount of videos that are done against the Jehovah's Witnesses, the number of people who have been victimized, it's amazing that 8 million is a small population of people. It's a small number comparing to the Catholics estimated number of 1 billion members. If you have driven benefit from this program, kindly like, subscribe, and smash that notice bell so that every time I upload a new video, you will be notified. Media coverage. Investigative reports and documentaries have further amplified survivor stories, pressuring Jehovah's Witnesses to address systematic issues. Programs like Deadline, NBC, and exposés by BBC have kept the issue in the public eye. What are the consequences to the Jehovah's Witnesses? Jehovah's Witnesses' mishandling of allegations has had far-reaching consequences. First, legal and financial repercussions. The organization has paid millions in settlements and fines. These legal battles have drained the resources and exposed internal policies to public scrutiny. Jehovah's Witnesses members suffer twice. First, their children are abused. Secondly, the money that they contribute goes to pay for settling abuses, whilst the abusers go scot-free. Membership decline. Scandals have shaken the faith of many members, leading to defections and tarnished reputation. In regions like Australia, public exposure has correlated with slow membership growth in the Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know why the Jehovah's Witnesses can't just face the problem squarely and deal with it and move forward. Their failure to address this problem squarely has actually negatively affected them and has contributed to slower growth or even decline of this sect, because their public perception has been affected. Once seen as a morally upright faith, Jehovah's Witnesses now face widespread criticisms for their handling of abuses. This shift in perception has made it difficult for the organization to maintain its image that it has so dearly, for such a long time, built and protected. Why are reforms needed? Number one, experts and advocates argue that meaningful reform is essential to protect children and restore trust. Necessary changes include abolishing the two-witness rule. The rule must be replaced with a system that prioritizes victim testimony and corroborating evidence.
With recent reports of Catholics, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, and other groups, it appears that bad institutional policy has allowed many children to be hurt. What makes bad policy? 3 basic areas are identified in this material. Number 1, internal institutional investigation of the crime of rape by untrained personnel. What happens when these things are practiced? You will see in the following documentaries that have aired in the USA, United Kingdom, and Australia, identifying how bad practice hurts children.
Number 2, mandatory reporting to authorities. Elders must be required to report allegation to law enforcement, regardless of the circumstances.
Number 2, invoking God or institutional reputation as something to protect by not reporting the abuse to proper authorities. And number 3, internal confidential records that clearly identify child abusers not turned over to proper authorities for prosecution.
Congregation leaders need professional training to handle abuse allegations appropriately and sensitively. Support for survivors. The organization must provide counseling and resources for victims rather than isolating or disfellowshipping them. The Jehovah's Witnesses' failure to handle abuse is a betrayal to their most vulnerable members of the organization, the children and the women. While the organization has taken small steps towards addressing this problem, much more needs to be done. Survivors and advocates continue to fight that this organization should come to terms with its problems. They continue to fight for justice, reminding all of us of the importance of accountability and the enduring strength of the human spirit. If you have driven benefit from this program, kindly like, subscribe, and smash that notice bell so that every time I upload a new video, you will be notified. If you have any questions, you are seeking clarifications, or you want to challenge what I've said, please go ahead and put that in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to respond to you as soon as I can. If you are interested in understanding the doctrinal and institutional factors that promote abuse in the Jehovah's Witnesses, click on this link If you have not watched part 1 of this video, click on this link to watch the video that I mentioned about what Jesus would say to members of the governing body. Click on this link.